So Donkey Kong Bonanza dropped last week, and and yes, I do mean we all love the game. Plenty of videos talk about the great details, and today I am pleased to announce we will not be doing that. In this video, we got a different objective. Yes, indeed we do. We are asking the most important question that when I personally looked up, has never been answered. What type of gorilla is Donkey Kong? And before you go, Jorky, gorilla is gorilla. Well, hey pal.
I know more than you.
All that said, before we get started, let's just make sure we remind ourselves it is Monkey Monday! And on today's Monkey Monday, as I made clear, we are discovering what type of monkey is our beloved Donkey Kong. So to really lock down on what type of gorilla our beloved DK is, let's spread out the options. We have two species that each have two subspecies. So branching this out, we have the eastern species, and we have the western species. On the eastern side, we have the eastern lowland gorilla, and we have the mountain gorilla, who was previously covered in my Winston video I made for another Monkey Monday. And then on the western side, we have the western lowland gorilla, and we have the cross river gorilla. So the first thing we can't do is go by appearance. None of these gorillas necessarily look like Donkey Kong. Surprisingly, there's not a single gorilla in here where it'd be like,
ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
And I mean, the closest one we have that looks somewhat like Donkey Kong is the western lowland gorilla in some pictures, but it's not exact enough to just go off that. The second thing we can't go off of is region, because shockingly, when I looked it up, Donkey Kong Island, it doesn't show up on Google Maps. So we can't use region, and we can't use appearance. So we're gonna have to get pretty creative to figure this out. And I think I found a few solutions to that. The first one being considering the animal buddies in the Donkey Kong games. Now, full disclaimer, I want to clarify a lot of this research came with me using ChatGPT.
Wait!
And just to clarify, I am against the usage of AI in any creative way. It's just for research purposes in this video. I even asked for it to cite its sources, some of which I had to correct, as you'll see later on in the video. That disclaimer aside, we're going to be looking at two animal buddies and one sidekick to help really try to locate which specific gorilla Donkey Kong is. So I made a graph that's going to track if that gorilla would interact with that animal buddy on Tier Maker. It's going to be pretty easy to follow along. And I even made multiple of each animal buddy in the case that there's more than one gorilla who would interact with them. So I started with Diddy Kong, that if you watched a previous video, I'm under the conclusion is more of a spider monkey than a chimp. And I asked, what gorilla species is most likely to interact with spider monkeys? And the answer I got? None of them. So I had to get creative and go against my own logic. Let's imply Diddy Kong is a chimpanzee, even though he has a tail, and see what we get. So when we look up if there's any species of gorilla that interacts with chimpanzees, we mostly get the western lowland gorilla. There is a slight chance an eastern lowland gorilla will also interact with him, but it's rare, so that point goes into the favor of the western lowland. But we are still going to include the eastern in there just because there is still a chance. So next up on the list was Rambi. Now for Rambi, I did just generically search what type of gorilla would have the highest chance of interacting with any rhino. On this tier, it looks like the eastern lowland gorilla comes out on top with a moderate chance. The mountain gorilla comes out on a low chance, and the western lowland gorilla on this one comes out low as well. So if you couldn't figure out how I'm doing this on the chart, anything that has a high chance is getting 2 points with that animal. Anything with a low chance is still getting a point, but it's just one. That being said, it looks like the eastern lowland gorilla and the western lowland gorilla are pretty much head to head when it comes to how many of the animal buddies they have in common. Last but not least of the animal buddies is Espresso the ostrich. And when you look up what gorilla species is the most likely to come in contact with an ostrich, it's pretty cut and dry. The only one who interacts with the ostrich is the eastern lowland gorilla. Putting that into the chart, that would mean the winner of this is the eastern lowland gorilla, right? I just can't help but think that we're forgetting about someone once again. It would be stupid to leave King K. Rool out of this, and I'm a lot of things, including stupid, but I'm not ignorant. Assuming the 10 seconds I looked up if King K. Rool is an alligator or a crocodile, which it makes a lot more sense if he's a crocodile, I asked what gorilla species would come in contact the most with a crocodile. And the results have shaken things up because it is mostly the western lowland gorilla. Yeah, there's a very low chance the eastern lowland gorilla can, but if we're doing the scoring the same way we have been, that means we are back again to a tie and we do not have a conclusive answer.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Do not lose hope yet, because this means we can narrow it down to two options now, the eastern lowland gorilla and the western lowland gorilla. And with this next segment, I think we can really narrow it down even closer. Next up is considering the power and personality of the eastern lowland gorilla and the western lowland gorilla and trying to figure out which one is closest to our boy. We'll be looking at things like their power, how strong they are, their agility, if they can even climb or if they can throw barrels. All of these things are going to help narrow down which gorilla is the most calm.
Okay.
So we have to start talking about pure strength and which one is stronger, because Donkey Kong punched the moon.
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't think either of them are going to necessarily be capable of doing that, but we still have to figure out which one will come the closest. So before we get too carried away, I just want to point out why, again, you should source everything on ChatGPT. So this thing tried to tell me that gorillas can lift up to 27 times their own body weight, according to Gorilla Land Safaris. And with the largest eastern lowland gorilla reaching 550 pounds, they're strong, but I don't think they're lifting 14,850 pounds strong. But something else I took away from looking that up is while the eastern lowland gorilla is the strongest, they're not very agile, at least not as much as the western lowland gorilla. Donkey Kong isn't just strong, he's also great at climbing, and in Donkey Kong Bonanza, he's great at parkour. Parkour! But on top of just the agility, in the DK family, he's not even supposed to be the heaviest Kong. In Donkey Kong 64, there is one Kong that is supposed to be stronger and heavier than him.
And then there's Chunky. He's dead.
Dead or alive based off the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Donkey Kong in his normal form weighs 2,000 pounds according to the ring announcer in the final boss section of Donkey Kong 64. Meanwhile, in that same boss section, Donkey Kong is announced at 800 pounds. That means there is a 1,200 pound weight difference between the two. And I don't think that's a bad thing, considering that Donkey Kong is supposed to be more of an all-around fighter. He's supposed to be quick, agile, just like a boxer, while also having some heavy hits. Donkey Kong is more of just a throw a really heavy haymaker type of guy. All of this makes me consider that the western lowland gorilla is the closest to Donkey Kong. But wait, I got more. Not only is the western lowland gorilla more playful and loves climbing trees and being agile and wrestling and climbing, not only are the western lowland gorilla more vocal when it comes to making sound, and they've also been seen using tools just like Donkey Kong uses a Glock. There is one specific and conclusive way I end this argument between the two.
Oh, banana.
That's right, bananas. Western lowland gorillas derive around 67% of their diet from fruit. In contrast, eastern lowland gorillas only eat about up to 25% of fruit in their diet, and that is so much less than western lowland gorillas. If there is one thing Donkey Kong loves more than anything else, it's bananas.
Well, I say, with a magnificent pair of bananas. Oh, great heavens!
With that being said, let's do the roundup for all the reasons why I believe Western Lowland Gorilla takes the crown. Our first point was the animal buddies, and while they both did tie, I think it's a matter of seeing who had the more important characters in their list. While not having ostriches on its list, the Western Lowland Gorilla, however, comes in contact frequently with chimpanzees and crocodiles, meaning it would be around Diddy Kong and King K. Rool the most. When it comes to the physical traits, the Eastern Lowland Gorilla is stronger, however the Western Lowland Gorilla is more agile, it's a better climber, it's still strong but it can move quicker, which reminds me a lot more of Donkey Kong than just a tank that hits fast but can't move around very much. When it comes to personality, the Western Lowland Gorilla is a lot more energetic, it likes to have fun, it's wrestling, which reminds me a lot more of Donkey Kong than say the Eastern one, which is too big to really move around, so it just kind of has a chiller, calmer personality. And then the winning argument to close the book is the love of bananas. The Western lowland gorilla just eats more fruit, therefore eats more bananas, and I think that 100% is the final argument you can use that puts the Western lowland gorilla as the closest to Donkey Kong. So there you have it, folks. The gorilla closest to Donkey Kong is the Western lowland gorilla. And that is it for this week's Monkey Monday. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, subscribe, comment what you would like to see from the next Monkey Monday. I will be streaming Donkey Kong Bonanza tomorrow over on my Twitch. My schedule is on there as well. I have a link to my Discord. Feel free to join in and discuss some of the cool things we got plotting and going on. This thing is only going to grow as time goes on. Jorky TV will be number 2 behind Mr. Beast, and then we're going to be past that too as Mr. Yeast. But all jokes aside, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I recently got past 60 subscribers, which is a big thing for me. So thank you guys so much. I can't wait to continue this channel growing. We're going to do some more stupid shit as time goes on. But until next time, y'all take it easy.